At this moment, Pak happened to come to the rooftop and saw Jade standing at the edge, making a phone call. Shocked and worried about her safety, he quickly rushed over in a few strides and caught her firmly. He immediately asked why she was being so reckless, only to hear Jade hiccup. This meant she could make a sound. Pak was confused. His wife, who had suffered from intermittent mutism for 20 years and couldn't speak, had just been on the phone with someone. Could it all have been deliberate? Jade opened her mouth but still made no sound. Just then, Pak's subordinate called, and Jade took the opportunity to leave the rooftop. The subordinate reported that the earlier call lasted over 10 minutes and that they had traced the kidnapper's location. It happened to be in the building where the banquet was being held. For a moment, Pak suspected that Jade was the kidnapper, but he quickly dismissed the thought. On the other side, Pak's mum stared at the father-in-law's image on the bulletin board, unable to control her rising anger. Finally, she sprayed a mouthful of red wine onto it. After the banquet, back at the villa, Pak tossed and turned, unable to sleep. He had a strong urge to storm into Jade's room and confront his wife, asking how long she planned to keep deceiving him. Why was she pretending not to be able to speak when she clearly could? It was understandable when she was a child, but now they were married. Hearing this, Jade picked up her phone from the table and explained that everyone has their own secrets, then asked Pak if he had nothing he was hiding from her. At that moment, Pak was left speechless and didn't even have the courage to walk out of the bedroom, because in fact, there was indeed something significant he was hiding from Jade. Early the next morning, news of Jade passing the presidential office interview spread throughout the company. She really wanted to share this joy with someone, but after scrolling through her entire contact list, realized there wasn't a single person she could talk to. That's when she thought of her cold and distant husband. However, simply announcing she passed the interview might make her seem too casual about it, and questioning him about whether he had pulled any strings would come across as too harsh. While Jade was hesitating, she accidentally sent him a heart emoji. At the same time, Pak couldn't believe his eyes and had no idea what his wife meant. He quickly made up an excuse and rushed to end his morning meeting. Stepping out of the office, the more he looked at the emoji, the happier he felt. He wanted to ask Jade what it meant, but that felt too formal. After spending a long time choosing his words, just as Jade was about to retract the message, he replied, "Congratulations on passing the interview." However, the message was sent in the morning, and by noon, there was still no reply. Pak kept checking his phone repeatedly, so anxious that he couldn't even eat. Just then, a message from Jade came through, thanking him for his help. Upon reading it, Pak nearly grinned so widely his mouth twisted. He quickly replied, reminding her not to say something so sensitive, assuring her that he hadn't given her any special treatment. But as soon as he sent it, he regretted it, worrying that his tone might have been too stiff. Not long after, Jade received another text from Pak, instructing her to be at the location in the photo at 6 p.m. The scene shifts, and Jade arrives punctually at the clothing store shown in the photo. Pak had specially ordered a formal suit for her as a gift to celebrate her new job. While Jade was trying on another dress, Pak's subordinate reported that the kidnapper might be a woman, though they couldn't rule out the possibility of an AI transformation. Pak, however, doubted it was AI, as all the conversations so far had been improvised. Before he could finish his thoughts, he was completely captivated by Jade, who appeared wearing the dress. As luck would have it, their eyes met in a deep and heartfelt gaze. Just in time for Yan, freshly returned from abroad, to witness it all. Jade, once again in the guise of the kidnapper, called Pak just as he was crossing a busy crosswalk. Luckily, Jade's quick intervention saved him from a dangerous situation. During the rescue, Pak heard his wife's voice, even if briefly. He expressed his hope to hear it more often in the future, reassuring her that speaking wouldn't cause the world to collapse and that she didn't need to suppress herself or give up her voice for any reason. Although deeply moved by his words, Jade still remained silent. At the welcome party the next day, Pak's subordinates reported new developments. They had encountered a virus while analyzing some voice distortions, but managed to recover one audio clip, though its quality was poor. Pak decided to listen to it. The subordinate added that the kidnapper was likely close to the spokesperson, and based on the sound wave analysis, was a woman aged 25 to 29. In truth, Pak had already guessed who it might be but didn't want his suspicion to be correct. To confirm, he provided another recording and instructed his subordinates to expedite the comparison. That night, Pak drank an excessive amount of alcohol. When Jade helped him into the house, Pak received a message stating that the two soundtracks matched 99%. The next morning, Pak woke up to find himself lying on the floor. To his surprise, Jade was asleep in his arms. Both of them quickly came to their senses and disentangled themselves from the awkward position. Trying to recall what happened the previous night, Pak suddenly realized he had blacked out. He could only vaguely remember Jade helping him into the room, but everything after he fell was a complete blur. After freshening up, he asked Jade why they had ended up sleeping in such an odd position on the floor. To his surprise, Jade became incredibly shy, with a faint hint of happiness in her expression. This left Pak utterly confused and slightly uneasy. At that moment, Pak's phone rang. It was his subordinate, asking if he had seen the message sent the previous night. Only then did Pak realize the analysis showed a 99% similarity between the provided audio and the kidnapper's voice profile. Based on the clues gathered so far, it was now clear that the person who had kidnapped Jade and caused chaos at the sanatorium was not the same individual who made phone calls every night at 10 p.m. Pak openly admitted that he had figured out the truth and confirmed that the two individuals were not accomplices. The immediate priority now was to sever the connection between the kidnapper and the caller. As the conversation unfolded, Pak grew frustrated with himself. He had believed he could approach everything rationally and resolve the situation flawlessly. Yet, why hadn't he realized it was Jade all along? The signs had been there more than once, but he had desperately convinced himself they weren't true. Reflecting on every call from his wife, he could feel the depth of her pain and misfortune. It struck him that, deep down, Jade might truly want to end their marriage. This thought left Pak feeling uneasy, gripped by a growing fear of losing Jade for good. That afternoon, during their sign language lesson, Pak suggested learning the word forgive. Jade taught it to him several times, but he still couldn't get it right. In the end, he came to the conclusion that forgiving someone who has made mistakes is truly difficult. As Pak stepped out of the office, Jade received a text from Yan, inviting her to meet at the aquarium that evening. The scene shifted to Jade arriving punctually for the meeting. To her surprise, Yan grabbed her hand and started speaking. It turned out the two were half-sisters. After the car accident, Yan had lost her hearing, and Jade's mother, desperate to maintain her position with her wealthy husband, forced her own daughter, Jade, to remain silent. Now Yan has had surgery abroad. Her hearing has fully recovered, so she hopes her younger sister can also start speaking. In fact, Yan has known about the mother-daughter plan from the beginning. At first, she didn't want to bear the trauma alone, so she allowed Jade's mom to torment her sister. However, no matter how the older sister explained, Jade just didn't want to forgive her. In the end, she angrily left the aquarium. As soon as she stepped out the door, Yan sent a text message, questioning if she really understood Pak. She revealed that on the day before the wedding, it wasn't the older sister who treated the younger sister as a substitute, but that the guy specifically wanted her. Meanwhile, Pak was searching through that special phone when he was discovered and stopped by Jade, who was sent home. Coincidentally, the guy found his wife's sexy pajamas and immediately teased her about this style. Seeing this, his wife, flustered and shy, tried to grab them back, but accidentally knocked her husband over. However, it unexpectedly reminded them of the situation from the previous night when she fell. The couple's faces instantly turned red, and their hearts raced, so much so that Pak pushed his wife away and intentionally hid. At this moment, Jade remembered the special phone. Fortunately, it was still stuck under the drawer. Soon, it was 10 p.m., and Jade made the phone call on time, pretending to be the kidnapper. Coincidentally, Pak wanted to use this opportunity to learn more about his wife, so he suggested that they ask each other questions and answer honestly. Jade readily agreed. He wanted to know if the deal made the night before the wedding was related to Jade. Pak answered without thinking, saying yes, and then asked the next question. At this moment, was Jade being threatened? She was threatened, but also not. It turned out that when Pak was young, he was often awakened by nightmares. In his most fearful, lowest point in life, when he needed someone to rely on, he accidentally saw a girl learning sign language in front of a mirror. Perhaps because both of them had no one to rely on, or maybe it was because of the girl's determination. Every time Pak saw her, his heart would calm down. He knew that the Hong family was a very cruel prison for the girl, so he wanted to help her escape and live freely with him in the home they would build together. However, he never imagined in his dreams that the new home they built together would become another prison for the girl. So, even if it meant getting involved with a madman, she would do everything she could to divorce him. Did she really want a divorce? Jade originally just wanted to stop expecting anything from their married life. Pak promised to give his wife love and care, and he would do anything that Jade wanted. From the beginning, he had used the hostage as an excuse to keep her by his side, thinking that one day he would have to send her away. But if Jade wanted something, that changed everything. If he tried hard to make their relationship different, then he asked her to promise not to use this phone to call again. Jade thought carefully for a moment, then said, "Let's see how you behave from now on," and hung up the call. The next day during the team building event, Pak, in order to sit with his wife, not only lied about feeling carsick, but also yanked away a clueless colleague. He then grabbed the coffee the colleague had given and handed Jade the juice he had carefully prepared for her. Jade, advised not to drink on an empty stomach, sat on the bus, which had been driving for an unknown amount of time. Groggily, she leaned her head on his shoulder. At first, the guy was startled, worried that the colleagues might notice. After scanning the room, he noticed everyone else was also drowsy, so he gained some confidence. Since Jade was sitting by the window, he tried to pull down the sunshade. However, after several unsuccessful attempts, he realized that any large movements would draw attention from his colleagues and possibly wake his wife. After struggling with his thoughts for a while, he finally decided to shield the intense light with his hand. However, the happiness didn't last for more than 3 seconds. It turned out that a colleague's wife sent a video call. What was unexpected was that this man, at his age, was completely carefree, singing and making heart shapes with his hands. It was clear that the colleague had a way of charming his wife. Seeing this, Pak, the so-called CEO, shamelessly decided to try and learn a thing or two from him. The final activity of the team building event was hiking. When everyone reached the summit, a colleague suggested taking a group photo to commemorate the moment. However, a group of hikers suddenly recognized Pak and immediately surrounded him, pushing and shoving while taking pictures. Jade, unable to make any sound, was pushed to the edge of the railing. At that moment, a female colleague suddenly screamed. Jade had fallen. Falling from such a high mountain, it was almost certain she wouldn't survive. Once Pak realized what had happened, he lost control for the first time in front of others. By the time the emergency responders arrived, Pak, overwhelmed with worry, had already gone down and searched around. He found a broken tree trunk, which he speculated Jade must have hit while falling. He urged the rescue team to hurry and simultaneously called his wife's phone, but it remained unreachable. As the sun began to set, Pak knew that the darker it got, the more dangerous the situation would become. After what felt like an eternity, Jade, in excruciating pain, woke up. By then, it was pitch black. She only remembered someone had pushed her hard, but after that, she had no recollection of what happened. Jade took out her phone and found that it was damaged and unable to turn on. Her only hope now was that special phone. As mentioned before, this phone could only dial Pak's number, and no one else from the outside could contact her. Holding on to her last bit of hope, Jade dialed her husband's number, but deep down, she felt conflicted, hoping that he wouldn't answer. Pak answered Jade's call and quickly reassured her. Though he was terrified, he remained calm and asked about her location. At the same time, he pretended not to recognize that the caller was Jade, using the conversation to soothe her. He told her that he had a first aid kit in his backpack, which contained a flare. However, Jade was in so much pain that she couldn't move. Pak asked if she was scared, admitting that he was almost dying from fear himself. Hearing this, Jade finally understood her husband's feelings. Despite the intense pain, she managed to find the flare in her bag. Pak asked if she was cold, as the temperature had dropped significantly, and reminded her to put on her windbreaker. He reassured her not to worry, as he was on his way. When Pak finally saw the flare, he immediately ran toward her, encouraging Jade not to give up. Extra scene, the night they fell down, Jade asked Pak while he was drunk what his heart meant. But then, Pak spit out the truth after drinking and said, "Jade, I love you." Jade was surprised to hear that, and then she laid down on top of him,